Hi all, this is Laura Stinchfield, the pet psychic, and I'm excited to share with you today an author talk I did on 10/17/21 at Ruth Keeler Memorial Library in North Salem, New York. I read a section of my book and talk a lot about animals and how you can talk with animals, and I hope you enjoy it. And remember, you can buy my books online. You can go to my website, thepetpsychic.com, or you can go to Amazon and purchase them, or any bookstore worldwide. Okay, enjoy. So thank you guys all for coming. I'm really excited to see you all and to see that there are people who really care about animals and want to learn how to talk to them and how to have a better relationship with them. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what I do and why people hire me, and then maybe tell you a little bit about how you can do it yourself, and then also maybe read a couple of articles from my book, and then I'll open it to questions. So people hire me for all different types of reasons. Some people hire me just to see how their animal is doing and ask me, like, what is their animal like, or what are their animal's dislikes. Vets hire me to see if they're kind of struggling with a case and they can't figure out what's wrong with the animal. And they want to know how the animal is feeling, how the animal feels on a certain medicine. Then they'll call me and ask for some advice if it's getting tricky. People call me for death and dying. So if an animal is really sick, and the people want to know, like, what makes my animal more comfortable and how they can help them more right when they're getting ready to pass away, to explain them about euthanasia and to explain the death and dying process to them and help people through it. Ask the animal whether or not they're ready to pass or not, which is a really difficult thing for people. And then after their animal passes away, people often call me. I also talk to deceased people as well. And so connecting people with their loved ones on the other side and teaching people how to recognize when their animal or their loved one is around them in spirit. People also call me for behavioral issues, a lot of cats peeing outside the litter box, or aggression, dog aggression, cat aggression, problems with horses being spooky in the arena, problems. There's an article in here that I was thinking about reading about a horse that wouldn't pick up his feet, and to try and see, like, what's going on. Why does the animal have a certain behavior, and what can we do to help them fix it and get through with it? So the way I communicate with them is through telepathy, and telepathy is sending images and feelings and a sense of knowing to an animal and then receiving that back. So I will talk to the animal and ask them a question, and then the animal will say back to me how they're thinking and feeling, and my mind will pick it up. So it can come to, hey, you guys. So what happens is that when an animal sends you information, you can get it in multiple different ways. So you could get it in a visual. So you'll have something pop up into your mind, like a picture, or like a little video that goes through your mind. Or you may have it as a feeling in your body. Like if an animal has a hurt shoulder, all of a sudden your shoulder might start hurting. Or your chest might start hurting. That happens all the time with people who are living in the home with animals. They'll start to have an issue that their animal is having and they think it's their own. They'll even go to the doctor and say, oh, I've got this problem. But what's happening is that the animal is sending it to their people, saying, this is how I feel, but the people are not recognizing it as that. It could be just a sense of knowing, like we've all sort of had a pet that's come up to us and looked at us and you just know it wants a treat or wants a glass of, or wants some fresh water, right? Or wants to go outside. You just have a sense of knowing because they're sending it that to you. And so it's really important to start paying attention to the way we all are thinking and feeling around our animals and just thinking and feeling in general. Because if you know your own mind, then you can know what's happening if an animal or something else is trying to give you a message. So if you know throughout the day what you're thinking and how you think and what images pop up into your mind, and while they're doing that, it's a lot easier to recognize when something else pops up into your head. And then you can say, okay, where did that come from? And now we've all experienced that if we go into a room and all of a sudden you just feel really excited. Well, you're picking up the energy in the room around you. It wasn't necessarily yours when you walked in, but then you picked it up around you and then you're feeling it. The same with if you walk into a room where there's just been an argument, there's a heaviness in the room and you just can kind of feel it, right? And so we're doing that all the time. So also where if you think about somebody and then they email you or then they call you, so what's happening is that they're putting it out there, they're thinking about you, that energy is going out, and then you're picking it up. And then they're calling because you've picked up that they've been thinking about you and that they were going to email you or call. Or it could go the other way. You start thinking about somebody, you're putting it out there, your mind is putting it out there, and then all of a sudden they call you because they've picked up you. So it's really important to start thinking about what am I thinking at any given moment and how am I feeling. So the other thing that I think is really important when we're talking to the animals is to think about energy. And when we're communicating with another animal, it's a frequency of energy. So if you think about just like a radio frequency, and when we're communicating with our animals, or we're communicating with spirit, or we're creating something in our lives, or manifesting something, or we're in joy or gratitude, we're at a very high frequency of energy. And when we're depressed or sad, or you're feeling regret or remorse, or worry, you're at a low frequency of energy. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if you think about that on a radio dial, that's the higher emotions, the higher frequencies are higher on the radio dial, and the lower frequency emotions are lower on the radio dial. We sort of are in the middle every day. We sort of are in the middle, and then we oscillate between the two. Well, when if we think about those emotions also as being housed somewhere in our body, or those frequencies being housed somewhere in our bodies, those lower frequency emotions like worry, regret, anger, sadness, depression, they're housed sort of in our stomach, in our gut sort of area. So, that makes me feel sick. When you think about something, it's in your stomach. When you think about those higher emotions like love and gratitude and joy and creating something, communicating to spirit, communicating with your animals, that's up in your heart center and higher. So if we want to communicate with the animals, we have to get up into our hearts and feel from the heart, and then communicate from that area, from that space, right? Because we need to raise our frequency to their energy and make it easier. So it's like when you're sad or depressed, that's sort of like having bad cell service. So if you're communicating to a loved one who's in spirit, or even communicating to a loved one here on earth, of a human or another animal, it's going to be more muddled, and you kind of have to get up into your heart, get clear, and then communicate from that place. Now, when we're communicating with our animals, it's really important to start thinking about how we're phrasing things. So let's say we have an animal who jumps on people, and you want to teach that animal not to jump on people, right? You want to try and stay away from saying things like, don't jump up on people when they come in the door, or don't jump. Because what happens when you phrase it in the negative like that is that you're feeling the negativity. So you're down in your gut, you're feeling that negativity of that emotion. And then you're also picturing the animal jumping, and you're picturing the bad thing that's going to happen if the animal jumps. So the animal hears jump. because we're picturing the jumping and we're feeling the jumping in the body. So you want to say to an animal, all fours on the ground, get off, is, if you're using dog training terms, off, and all fours on the ground. You can say to them, when grandma comes in and you jump up on grandma, she may fall. And so then you're picturing in your head all those things happening. And then the dog will realize, okay, if I jump, grandma may fall. So it's really important that when grandma comes in, you keep all fours on the ground. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, if you can just do that, if you can picture and feel everything that you're saying to the animals, they're going to get it. That's easy. Easy, easy, easy. They're getting it all the time. So getting it back is a little bit harder. And that is just going into your heart center, asking them to tell you what they want to tell you, and then to trust that it will come. It may come, like I said, in like a flash of a picture or a sense of knowing, but it may not come at that that exact moment, because you might be trying too hard. You might be listening too hard and like, what are you saying? I can't get it. But your mind has like this little answering machine, and it will play it over for you later on. Or the animal will tell you later, like while you're in the shower or while you're doing dishes, and you'll just be like, oh, maybe this is why, or oh, maybe this is it. So you just kind of want to start paying attention to what you're thinking and feeling after you ask an animal a question. Does that make sense? Okay. So people often ask me, like, when did I start this, or how did I know that I could communicate with the animals? And I've been communicating with them my whole life. My earliest memory is of my mom and dad holding our little Yorkshire Terrier over my crib, and me looking up at her thinking how furry she was, and she saying to me, like, you're so small. So I always knew what they were thinking and feeling. And I was trying to think of like what stories to tell you, and there's a lot of them in the book that I always tell, but these are a few that I don't tell that often. I used to ride competitively hello. Oh, well, welcome. So I used to ride competitively when I was young, and I always just kind of knew what the animals were thinking and feeling, but I didn't realize that nobody else did. And that was really tough for me because it was before the internet. It was before I had that, I could just Google something. And there was this one time where I had this horse, and something happened to her hip. And this was before I knew about, chiropractors and things that we could do to help the horses. And she started to refuse jumps. And my trainer told me to whip her. Whip her over the jumps. But I could tell that when I was going up to a jump, that her hip kind of like dipped, and I could tell she was like in pain, and I couldn't understand. And I knew it's so strong that like it was her hip, like she wasn't jumping. And my trainer was telling me, hit her, whip her. And I couldn't understand why she would tell me to do that when a horse was in pain. And she actually got on the horse, and she did that, and she did it. And seeing situations like that over and over was one of the reasons why I eventually decided to stop riding, because I saw a lot of abuse that I didn't understand. If people understood animals, like, why are they doing that? Things have changed a lot. And I mean, there were a lot of great people at that time too. But that was just my experience. And things have changed a lot since then about our consciousness of animals and them working with us as a team, rather than we just using them for something that we want to get done for ourselves. So another experience I had about talking to an animal, and like where it was sort of solidified in my mind at a young age that we could talk to the animals and they could listen to us. We lived in Scarsdale at the time, and I used to go and sort of wander with my friends like around the neighborhood, and we used to go into people's yards all the time, and places where you shouldn't be, and I was about 8 years old probably, and my friend and I kind of climbed this fence to this yard, and there were these two beautiful German Shepherds, and I just wanted to like pet them, right? And they were kind of watching us, and my friend Jessica and I were like, yeah, let's just go and like pet them. So we jumped into the yard, and the dogs went crazy because they're German Shepherds and there's like kids in their yard. And so they were barking. My friend actually got bit. And the owners came out and said, oh my God, are you okay? Like, come in. And they fed us cookies. I don't know if they were bribing us so that we wouldn't tell our parents, but they fed us cookies, and they said, and I remembered watching the German Shepherds, and they just didn't trust us because we jumped in the yard, and they just kind of sat and watched us the whole time we were in the house. And the owner said, the woman said, you can't just jump into people's yards because these dogs are protective and you're going to get bit. But if you want to come back and visit them, you can call us and we will tell them that you're coming. And if we tell them you're coming, they'll be okay with you here. So I was like, okay, so we took their number and we left. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, what is this? Like, you'll tell them, that we're coming. So I don't remember how long it was. I don't even remember if Jessica came with me for the time when I called them. I called them and I went back, and she was like, sure, come over. And when I came over, the dogs were completely different. They were running around, grabbing their toys and playing with a ball, and I could pet them and like hug them, and I could throw the balls for them, and they were completely different. And it solidified in me like, wow, you can talk to them and they can have a different behavior. So that was really amazing for me. So I thought maybe I would read something along that lines from one of my books, and this is Voices of the Animals, is a collection of insightful articles and stories that will change the way you view and treat animals. It was actually written, their articles were originally for the Santa Barbara News Press, and they were published in the Santa Barbara News Press, and then I made a book of them. So am I talking too fast? No. Okay. Okay, good. I feel like so this is one of my earliest experiences with talking to a client's animals. Before I was an animal communicator, when I was first starting to be an animal communicator, I was also a dog trainer and an animal trainer. And that was at one point, even before that, I was a pet sitter and dog walker. So while I was learning how to be a pet psychic, I was dog training. And I was very, very shy at the time to tell people that I was starting to do animal communication professionally. So I was often talking to the animals without telling my clients because I just, I didn't know, and I wasn't, yeah, I was, no, it's not cheating. I was really, really shy. And even when I first started to talk to clients professionally, I would have to be in a separate room and I would have to write it all down, and then I would have to go back, and then everything that I had written, I'd probably only tell the client like a quarter of it because some stuff was like so out there. I just was like, how are they ever gonna like believe that? And it takes time and practice too to know like what's coming from you and what's coming from someone else, and how to weed out like how much of you are being put into it, because it is definitely a dance of like like, what am I receiving, and making sure that you don't put your own ideas to it. So this was one of my earliest clients, and this is about a dog named Jake. And this dog was in Santa Barbara, and Santa Barbara is actually a very, very dog-friendly community. People bring their dogs everywhere. They bring their dogs to the beach. They bring their dogs into stores. They bring their dogs into like Nordstrom's. They bring them to restaurants. They go everywhere with people. And so if you have a dog in Santa Barbara, you usually are taking them out places. And so this dog was rescued from a high kill shelter in LA, and it was rescued by a smaller organization, and then these people adopted the dog. So the history wasn't really known about him. These people had a huge estate that overlooked the ocean, and even though they had property, they still wanted to take this dog out to the beach and to the dog park. So here's the story, and I'll read the story and then I'll talk about it and then I'll read a little bit more. So, okay, it's called Be Open to Possibilities. Jake was 3 years old when I first met him. He had big, wheat-colored, watchful eyes, silky, black, long-coated fur, and a body like a golden retriever. His people signed him up for my 6-week intensive dog training program because he was showing signs of dog aggression. On our first walk, he pulled on the leash, lunging towards a timid Maltese as he foamed at the mouth, growling and barking viciously. To all humans, clearly the Maltese was no threat. It didn't matter what kind of dog was in sight, he acted the same. Now that, I don't know if any of you have ever had a dog like that, but that can be very, very dangerous, right? Because that dog could grab a Maltese and shake it, kill it. It can get away from people. It's very, very scary to have a dog like that because a big dog like that can knock you down and like drag you. People can be traumatized having dogs like that, and they're everywhere. Dogs like this are everywhere. Although my clients lived on a large estate, they wanted to bring Jake to the beach and to the dog park. They wanted nothing to do with his training. I explained that it's not the best way to set up a dog for success. Dogs need consistency. If they didn't just want Jake to pass other dogs calmly on leash, but also run free among a great number of dogs without aggression, they needed to learn about dog training and behavior so they could support him too. They wanted nothing to do with it. I made no guarantees. So a lot of dogs like that, you can teach them to walk really nicely around other dogs, but then a dog running off leash could set them off. That's why it's extremely important for anyone here that has a really friendly dog off leash to never ever let your dog go over to a dog who's on leash, because really stressed dogs that can do serious harm are walking really nicely with their people. So I like to stress that whenever I can. I was too shy to mention my pet psychic services to Jake's people, but I felt it was important to talk to Jake about what was going on. Jake told me he had known only dogs that fought for food and or attention, and that he never had a good friend before. He never had a dog friend before. Now that's really scary too, because now we have a dog that may not have ever learned bite inhibition, right? So if he's around another dog, he might break the skin. And he learned that anyone coming towards him is fighting for territory or food, right? So that's like post-traumatic stress. So this can be held, as some of you know that have ever had post-traumatic stress, you can hold that your whole life and have a hard time letting it go. I asked him where he had lived. He shared that he had lived in a small dirt yard. Stray dogs would often come and fence fight or jump into the yard and fight for his bowl of kibble. One day, his people just turned him free. He ended up at a high kill shelter where he was taken in by a smaller rescue organization. I asked Jake how his life has changed. He told me that he feels clean, safe, loved, and cared for. He loves when his people are petting him. He said he feels calm in his yard, listening to the wind, smelling the ocean, watching the squirrels, and playing ball. So now why I did that, why I asked him how his life was changed, because even as a dog trainer or any type of trainer who you have an animal that's having some type of aggression, you want the dog to remember what it's like to feel calm when they're in a when they're in that stressful environment, right? So we want to have them remember what it feels like to be calm and be able to bring themselves back to that calmness. And so asking him, like, what makes you feel calm and how have you seen your life already change from what it was important for that dog to think about, and also important for me to know so that I could help him while I'm out and help him to sort of feel safe. I told him that his life with other dogs could be just like that, completely different from his past experiences. So now this dog had never had a good experience with other dogs, and he never had a good experience with people. And now he lived on this huge estate and was living really happy with other dogs or other people. And so I wanted him to know, hey, you know what? Maybe you can do that with dogs too. And I think that's really, really important for us to remember when we're talking to our animals and they have something bad. We get so attached to the rescue story, we get so attached to their trauma story that we forget to mention to them, hey, there's this whole other world. Like, you can be good. Like, you can be happy. You can live this whole different life. You can change. And we all know that it's hard to change, right? Even for people. I told him that dogs at the beach and at the park just want to be calm, happy, and playful, like he feels in his yard. I told him to be open to the possibility of enjoying the company of other dogs and that his future could be better than he could even imagine right now. That his future could be better than he could even imagine right now, right? Like, shouldn't we all feel that way? He loved this concept. He crawled his big body into my lap and kissed my face. No, he was easy, right? He just was like, got it. He was like, okay, cool. I like that idea. I'm game. I'm with you. And just like some people, right? You help some people. You tell them one thing. Okay, I've got what I need and I can go into the scary situation. I know how to calm myself. Where others, it takes them another year or 2 years to be able to do something, right? Remarkably, from that moment on, Jake never barked or lunged at another dog. Truly, never. Which was amazing for me because I made my living as a dog trainer and this took like 12 weeks. I mean, this could take a long time. And some dogs never are able to do it. He ran at the beach and at the park with a solid come when he was called and a smile on his face. After the 6 weeks, his people never needed my services again. 10 years later, I was at the beach when I saw a dog running full speed towards me. This can still make me cry up, even when I think about it now. When he reached me, he knocked me down, licking my face. It took me a moment. Oh my gosh, it's Jake. Now, at this point, I was working professionally as an animal communicator, very confident in it. He was whining with happiness. Thank you, thank you, thank you for telling me that I can have a life better than I can imagine. I have the best life. Kneeling, I hugged him. He put his paws on my shoulders, licked my face, and wagged his tail. Tears streamed from my eyes. I'm so proud of you, Jake. I still cry. I was amazed that he remembered me, smelled me from so far away, and what I said had such a big impact on him even 10 years later. I think of him many times each month when I tell other rescue animals about Jake and how he changed. You know others like me, they respond. They changed. So that just goes to show like how much what we feel about how our animals can change affects our animals. We need to believe in their possibility that they can change. Because of him, other animals live happier lives. During hard times, I remember Jake's courage too. I contemplate how his people, I remember Jake's courage too. I contemplate how his people's detachment from Jake's aggressive behavior and their confidence that he could change may have played an integral part in his evolution. Now, I say that because his people always just sort of, they only knew happy dogs, right? So they were like, oh, he can be happy, right? Like he could be happy. So afterwards, after I had worked with him and handed him over to them, when they went to the beach with him, they just felt like, okay, he's going to be good. You know, they had done their responsibility and they had hired a dog trainer, right? So they took responsibility for their dog's aggressive behavior, and then they believed that he could get better. Now, if you had a different client and the client still went fearful to the beach, I think Jake still would have been fine, but another dog might have been scared. So if someone went like, oh my God, what if he does this? And Jake's all wagging his tail happy. And another dog is like, I don't know, is there going to be aggression? A more insecure dog might say, uh-oh, my people is nervous. My people think something bad is going to happen. I better bark and be scary. So that's why it's really important that we hold a positive experience for our animals so that our animals can walk into that life. Hey. Does anybody have any questions or?
One thing when you were talking, normally for people that I know, it takes a while to change a habit.
Yeah.
To develop it. And it takes a while to get the habit, it takes a while to change it, but it doesn't seem to be that way with the animals. Is it the same or?
It's just like people. Some animals can change the habit really quickly, and other animals struggle for a really long time. So it's the same. It really is the same. But if we kind of go up into our heart and raise our frequency, right, and have a vision for them, is easier for them to change. Yeah. But some animals need a lot of support. Like a dog like that, a really great dog, might need some more training and have his own people come and help him through those situations. And it might take longer for a dog like that to be able to change that habit. Yeah.
So are your animals constantly talking to you?
All the time, yeah. But it's just because that is dialogue is open. So yes, they always are. Yeah.
It's hard for her parents to get a word in.
Oh.
So I missed the part. Maybe you said it. I didn't
Yeah.
hear it. But how did the horse's shoulder?
How did what?
The hip.
Oh,
horse's
her hip. Well, she was sort of a sad story, actually. We ended up selling her. She was kind of like my love horse, and we ended up selling her. And that was actually really sad too, because when she actually went to a horse dealer for a little while, and I could feel her like saying, being really scared. So from a distance, but I didn't understand it. Like I didn't understand that was happening.
That was a miscommunication.
Yeah, and then she came back for a little while, and she was trying so hard, and it just didn't work out for our family. I had gotten another horse, and it was just back then. That's what you did. You had a horse till it could do a certain stuff, and then you let them go, and you got a new horse. And for a lot of people, that's still what happens with horses. So one of my favorite things to do is to tell a horse that they have a home for life, because they are really, especially if they've gone off with a dealer before, they've gone to different barns before, they are scared. They don't know like what's going on. So to to tell a horse, like if you have horses that come into your barn, or like even if you board, I don't know how many of you are horse people, but if you have like a horse that you even see come into a barn and you know that they're on trial, or if you know somebody just bought them, it's important just to kind of like tell them, hey, like this is up, this is what's happening to you, like you're on trial here to see if they like you, or just to let them know like what's going on, because they don't know. Yeah. Yeah. A long time. And they see many homes, a lot of them. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a question?
I have a rescue dog that I've
Mhm.
had about 3 years now, and I got her when she was 3, and I have friends that run a dog rescue, and I was like, oh, give me a bark, please.
Oh, no.
So they bring out this dog, who was just like my dog that I had.
Aw.
This lab mix. She was horribly abused. It was a hoarding situation, taken away by court. But the sweetest dog, like she didn't get mean, she got very fearful.
Yeah.
So, but she loves to go on the hikes. She's still scared of people.
Yeah.
But she trusts me like a little bit. It took like 4 months before she would take food from my hand.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, I might have to she still has like nightmares. Like,
Oh.
whining at night.
And how long have you had her?
I've had her about 3 years. And like,
Oh,
you
wow.
saw me walking, I've had compliments on how well she is.
Yeah, right, right.
But when she gets in, she definitely, it's like a sleeping horse. That's kind of flight mechanism.
Yep.
And there's like people, some people, she just, a little kid. I think when she was a hoarding situation, she was taken care of by an 8-year-old boy.
Oh.
And so whatever, I don't think whatever, whatever I can have is good. Definitely is like,
Yeah.
like I pick up my glove one time and just kind of that.
Yes, and so it could be people, but it could also be just the energy of dogs that could create something like that. Because in hoarding situations, those people often just throw bags of kibble. And then the dogs, I mean, because they don't really want a lot of dog fights. And if you give bowls, there's going to be dog fights. So if you just throw kibble, then the dogs will just go and like find kibble. But then there's, a lot of those dogs have worms at first. And so there are fast moving dogs that are kind of going for food. So then those animals become conditioned to any fast movement that is dangerous and scary, right? But what she would need out of a bowl, and that might be why, because she never had a bowl before. She maybe didn't know what that was. Or if she went for a bowl, that was like really scary if she was lower on the pecking order. So just telling her, like when she wakes up from the dream, oh, did you have a nightmare from your past? It's okay. Those are all going to go away. We're going to give you good memories. What are some good memories you can think of? Yeah, but let her know you understand. Like, oh, is that an old memory? That will go away in time. It gets less and less in time, which is true. It does. It gets less and less in time. And dreams, they're just processing it out. So it's good that she's processing it, So, oh, you're processing. Look, now you got this great life. And, and then the other thing is like when you have animals like that are really skittish, you can, like I said, like get really like attached to the rescue story and like, oh, the sad story, you're okay. Like, it's okay. You're not doing them any good. Like feeling sorry for them. Like, be like, yeah, you're all right. Good girl. Like just a kid running. Come back here. Like I have a little chihuahua that was like that. And I teach him the behind. He used to lunge and like bite. And I teach him the behind command. So like when he sees that kind of stuff now, I teach him behind, and that's his safety. So even teaching her like a behind command, so she knows, okay, I go behind if I'm scared. Yeah. Aw. Yeah. No, you need to be the protector. You just tell her to go behind you. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting you talk about positive thoughts and everything. I had no idea about any of this, right? I'm learning about it now for the first time. We take our cats out when they go out because we got a lot of critters in the woods. We live in the mountains, and bears and foxes and stuff. So we take them out with us. And when it's time to come in, they said they only wanted 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Kids. And I would try to get them to come, and it would they wouldn't make eye contact with me. to say, "Oh, I don't see him. He's not there." So I started saying, "Come on, you're a good boy," and all of a sudden they would just get up and start, without even turning their head, and just start walking. And I had one that got over to our neighbor's house, almost where that car is up there, and he was through the woods.
Oh.
And I didn't want to go through there, so I said, "Romeo, come here." And he bolted. I never see. He's 16 years old. He ran as fast as a
Back.
deer. Yeah, all the way up, almost ran me over. He was so
Oh,
happy to get back because he was scared. He didn't know where he was. And when he heard me, and I guess when he saw me,
yes. And you said, come here
Yeah.
instead of don't go. Like if
Right,
you said,
right. And, but I started saying, "You're a good boy,"
"Aw."
and I didn't know that was as powerful as it really is.
Yes.
And so every now and then, even a blind squirrel can find a nut.
That's great. Yes.
Something you could suggest for a dog, something very calm, relaxed, like fireworks.
Yeah. The thunder can be a difficult one for some of them too because of the electricity in the air. So like, does he go into the bathroom? He just shakes. Yeah. So that's actually in my book too, is like how to tell an animal about fireworks. But you just tell them like every time of year, like this is the time of year people play with toys, and this toys, like I tell them all what fireworks look like, and they make this big loud noise. And you can do the same with the weather. Like knowledge is power. So the more you can explain in detail, like what it is, like you're safe inside the house, that noise can't get you, that you're safe here. And you want to give that feeling of safety where you are, like with my little Chihuahua, she's gotten scared. One of them, she's scared of the weather here because of the intensity in the air. Right. And so she now we have a place where she goes, and she stopped trembling when she goes there. So like I put a little bed in the laundry room, and that's where she goes. So like having them like have a repetitive safety area too, where you're like, there, you're safe. Some of them like the cuddling, but I like to teach them to have another place besides me, because you're not going to be home all the time, So, and they like to, I don't know, you have to figure out like what does your animal like, she likes comfy cozy where you can get under a blanket, and the laundry room is good because it's got that piping. If it is with bad weather, it's more grounding. Yeah, but knowledge is power. So the more you can explain to an animal like what's going on and how to be more confident and brave, it's going to help them. And if you just start doing that with your animals, explaining them, you will notice a difference in their behavior. Yeah. Oop, I can't hear you. When it's time for them to pass away? It's a tough one, of course, right? But to tell them, to explain to them, I don't know what your belief system is in heaven or the other side, but if you have a belief system that there is another side, to explain to them what that is. I have that in the book as well, but like telling them, that they'll still remember you, and that they'll feel like they did when they were young, and they're going to be okay, and that they can come back and give you messages. And then telling them, like, if you need help, I will help you, but you need to tell me over and over and over and over and over again. And telling them that, you will hear it. You will not just, people all of a sudden one day, they just know, and like people are like, I don't know if I'm going to know, but when it's that day, and then not to second guess it. Also, one of the things to know, when an animal is getting sick or when they're getting older, some days they feel really crummy and they're like, I think I'm going to die. And then the next day they're like, oh, I feel pretty good. Right? So they might be saying you one day, I don't know, Mom, like I kind of feel bad. Like, I think I'm getting ready. And then the next day they're like, nah, I'm good. And people are like, I don't know, I'm so confused. The reason why you're confused is because they're giving you mixed messages. So they're saying, so that's why I say to them, like, I need to know over and over and over and over again. Like, I've even said to mine 3 days in a row, and You know, I mean, sometimes I know like immediately, but other times, like if it's kind of funny and I'm like 3 days in a row and you do it 3 days in a row, we're good. Yeah. Carol.
Laura, you brought up something I thought about many, many years ago. I was out in Arizona with a friend who bred really nice horses,
Mhm.
and they had one born there. She was born cranky. I mean, she was born with her ears pinned back, and she remained that way. And then other people who knew the horse over the years didn't know that she really started with a great start. Said, "Oh, she's been abused."
Yeah.
I knew the beginning. But there are exceptions. Are there exceptions you feel with animals that are born?
That are born like a little bit cranky and a little bit ornery.
Ornery?
Yeah, I
One
think,
would kick you
I
or
think,
hit you. I mean, it would really, you have to be careful with it.
yeah, I would think definitely, like there's definitely, like just like people, right? But in that situation, I would also wonder, like, did she get knocked out of alignment through the birthing process? You know what I mean? Like, is her atlas out? And, you know, it would be interesting to get that horse adjusted, because if the atlas is out, which is at the base of the skull, you know, by the pole, that's like the horses that are pulling back and they're getting out at the pole, that affects the whole nervous system. So if that's out, you're going to have a more cranky, flighty animal. So then I kind of wonder, like, like that would have been my thought if.
She was a great performer. Once somebody got on her back and she went to the show.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Would win everything. So
Yeah.
there's nothing that she said the horse was nothing physical.
Well, we don't know if it was physical, because
Right.
you don't know, because if someone is born with a disability like that, they don't know anything different. So they can become like great performers because they're just going through it, and they could still have that, you know, that energy they were bred for, right? So they're still bred for that sort of behavior. But if maybe, like, I mean, I don't know, if that was the issue, that horse might have been a little bit more difficult to bridle, or a little bit more difficult when they pull it a certain way, because they would feel that pain down the face. I don't know. So they can be more cranky and more ornery, and definitely genetics plays a role in it too. I mean, you see some like I have a German Shepherd who is his testosterone he's neutered, but it definitely plays a role in behavior. So I mean, it's possible. Yeah.
My wife would tell you those are the males.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
understandable. Why do horses hate it when somebody's riding toward them on a bicycle?
On a bicycle? I think about that because I know some horses that like were trained for that, you know? So I think about, like I know some horses that are okay like that. Like in California, there's a lot of mountain bikers. And so I know a lot of horses that are okay with bikes coming at them, but it could just be lack of socialization. But also horses are prey animals, right? So they've been preyed upon, right? So, and so a bike coming at them would be scary to them, right? Because they don't know what's going to happen to them. And then with any animal, if like anything goes above them, they might think that maybe it could be like a mountain lion, or it could be, I mean, it's their instincts that think, well, maybe that could jump up on top of me. So it might just be instincts like, wait, that's not right. So that's why there's fight or flight, and horses will flee. That's why there's so many spinning horses and horses that bolt, because they are prey animals, and that's what they do when they're scared. They either fight or flight unless we can make them feel calm. So that's probably they're just like scared. Yeah. And they're confused. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I hear about dogs that were like the leg or something, you find out they have cancer on them.
Oh, yes.
How do they? Have you ever experienced?
I have experienced that a lot, actually. Yeah, they can smell it, and they can also see the energy of it. I had a cat, actually. It wasn't my cat, but a client's cat, who said to a woman had hired me to talk with her mother and her mother's cat, and it was on the phone. And so she was on the phone with her mom and the cat, and the cat started to talk about and the mom was the mother was like 86 years old. She was older, and the cat started to talk about, what do we do when my mom dies? You know, like, what kind of plan do we have, like, if my mom dies? And they were like, well, you know, she was actually cancer. She had battled cancer in the past, and she had been good. And so she, you know, thought, like, I'm good, nothing's happening, like, right away. And the cat was like persistent and was like, I want to know, like, where am I going? Where am I going to live? And and then the cat said to me, I feel like there's something around my mom's chest, and there's like an energy like around her chest, or a darkness around her chest. And so I said that to them, and they were like, oh, I don't know, well, I feel good, you know, we're like, I'm feeling really good. And so after that, there were other things that kind of went on in the session. But after that, the daughter had called me up, and she had said that after that session, they started to talk about like what to do if she dies, and like what to do with the cat, and what to do with like her whole affairs, actually. And then she said that she was kind of freaked out about it. So she got an appointment with her doctor, and the woman actually ended up having lung cancer. And so the cat noticed it before she even felt it. She felt like fine breathing. The woman eventually did pass away. But the daughter told me, if it wasn't for that cat, them having to deal with all those things before, like, it gave them time to kind of discuss what they were going to do before they actually knew she had cancer again. And then they caught the cancer soon enough to where they were able to kind of, you know what was happening. So it's amazing. Then I had another dog who was a dachshund, and a miniature dachshund. And the woman called me because the miniature dachshund was getting out of the house while she was at work, and they didn't know how it was getting out of the house. And like, people were finding it, but it was like dangerous because it was like a 5-pound dachshund. And the dog said to me, well, it was getting out through the dryer vent. And yes, and the dog said to me, I see something around my mom's uterus, like her bladder area. And she had been in remission for uterine cancer, and it came back. And the dog was scared and was trying to find its mom. So it's amazing. They smell it and they see it.
But they can't. Only way they found out though is from you talking to them, right? I mean, they didn't really get to tell the mom or the dad or the owner.
What do you mean? The dog didn't. Well, a lot of these animals will come and like sleep on the area, or they'll like sniff at the area, or they'll poke the area a lot. And so some people don't recognize it, right? They don't, or until later on, after they've been diagnosed, they're like, oh, maybe that's what happened. But at the time, people don't recognize it. Yeah, but an animal will often like go to places where you have illness. I mean, if you see like a dog licking your wound or something, they smell it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. By phone. So telepathy happens over time and space. So it's just like I was saying before about how, or I don't know if I did say it, if somebody calls, you're thinking about somebody and then they call, so you can project it through space. I actually like to have a picture of the animal, so I will look at to me, the eyes are like their telephone number. So I look at a picture of the animal, and then I can tune in from there. Yeah, I don't do FaceTime actually while I'm talking with people because I type out while I'm talking, and the FaceTime distracts me, like seeing people in the background. Yeah.
Why did you second book about?
Oh, so the whereas I'm stepping on it. So, this book is about is quotes from my late dog Stormy. He, I actually had him, for many years. He lived to be 16. He was an Australian Shepherd. And he was just like one of those really cool dogs that was like never needed a leash and was like just like a really, really good boy. And I used to have a radio show and we would do Stormy's Words of Wisdom at the end of it. And so this is a book of like his quotes of like things that he said throughout the years. And he just was like one of those dogs that just like had like a huge following. Like we would be walking down the street and like people would be like, Stormy out the window. Like people just loved him, and he got fan mail and
And I think I told you on Facebook one time I was in a store at the Lean In Tree card display.
oh
and
yes,
there were
right.
dogs on a greeting card.
Yes, that's right. And that's this picture actually. Yeah, it was that picture. Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. He got on a greeting card. But so here are some of them. Whenever I feel a friend being sad, I send them energy. In order to be happy, you have to exercise. Also, look at nature and feel, oh, how wonderful. He says, I really do care about how you feel, but I care more about teaching you how to be happy. He's just a cool little guy. When I breathe softly, I feel like I have greater insight into my life and to the lives of others. I feel healthier. Oh, the other really cool thing about Stormy was when he was about 12 years old, he got diagnosed with liver cancer and Cushing's disease. He had a tumor on his liver and his pituitary gland, and he lost all his, like, most of his fur. It got really blotchy, and he was black and white, and his fur turned, like, red. It's, like, weird, because which happens sometimes with, like, the liver. And Stormy was like, I'm not going to be sick. He's like, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not going to be sick. And I changed his diet. I gave him more vegetable. He ate so many fruits and vegetables. And I put him on CBD. But he was like determined to be like, he was given less than 6 months to live also. And he was determined to like keep living. And he wouldn't accept the diagnosis. He lived 4 more years. And he died at 16. Yeah. Which was a lot. He was like an 85-pound dog. Wow. Yeah. And so it just goes to show, and like at the time, my followers, I had the radio show and people were following him, and they like, you just couldn't believe it, like how he kind of turned himself around. And a lot of the animals will do that. They'll cure themselves of like incurable diseases. I know a lot of people who've cured themselves of incurable diseases, of like raising your frequency up into your heart and thinking positive things. Yeah. And believing that that's a possibility.
Where were you in your transformation when you got Stormy? Were you already a communicator?
Was I already a communicator when I got Stormy? I don't think was I? Oh, look at Annie! They followed Annie. They're Annie's. Annie's my neighbor, and she's the turkey vulture queen. They're hers. I can't take credit for that one. They are. They followed you here. They live at her house and everything. She's an animal communicator too, this one.
Are you going to have another radio?
There's always thought about it, but I haven't done it yet. Yeah. Yeah, it is so fun to do. It was nice because people called in and we got to talk to animals, like just quickly, you know, like a whole bunch of them for an hour. So there's always thought about bringing it back. We just haven't done it yet. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's funny that you talked about kitties urinating outside the box. Our two kitties don't, but a friend of mine was bringing it up 2 days ago and said, "What shall I do? What shall I do?" And I was waiting for this.
Yeah, cool. That's also in the book. There's a whole chapter on that. But cats being outside the litter box, it can be all sorts of different things. It can be they have a UTI or they're getting too much sugar in their diet. So one of the things is to check the food to make sure it's not owned by a candy company. No Nestle, Mars, Smuckers, which is like the candy companies are buying up a lot of our pet food. But it can be the litter tops on the litter box. Number one reason they don't like the smell in there. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Regarding the food, has dogs ever said to you, "I don't like dog food"?
All the time. All the time. Yeah. Yeah. And I feed the farmer's dog, which is a food that gets delivered to your door. So I really believe in fresh food for your animals. Yeah. The kibble is so processed. I give it to my German Shepherd just because he's so big. I don't want him to have all that protein of the meat, but I supplement it with that. But there's not a lot of nutritional value in kibble, so giving them fruits and vegetables is important too, and fresh meats, I think. Yeah. Yeah, but dogs often talk about the number one reason why dogs lick the bedding or lick the floor or pant at night is acid reflux, and that's usually because the kibble is too hard to digest. For them, over 8 to 10, you can see that in older animals. Yeah.
I have a 11-month-old Karen Terry, and he's a happy Karen. But he is very destructive. I mean, he literally had rocking horse. He ate the rocking horse. I mean, he'll eat whatever. And it isn't always when we're not there, but sometimes when we're there. So I know that he gets an anxiety if my husband, I mean, he adores my husband, God, but I can't figure out when we're home why he does these things. I've never had a dog do this, and so.
Interesting. Well, that can be a whole bunch of different reasons too. It could be his teeth, right? Like it's possible. It could be his teeth, like the puppy teeth maybe didn't fall out and then the new ones came in. Karens are wild little things, right? So it could be just lack of exercise.
Oh no.
Yeah. or lack of mental stimulation, like they need lots of training. Like any of those really smart dogs, they need to have lots of boundaries and lots of training. So, and to know where it's appropriate to chew, right? So where can they go to get an appropriate chew toy? That's important too. So to have like a basket or something. Yeah.
I hate to say it, though, my backyard looks like a battlefield.
It was right. So then that's something you want to like clean up and put in one area, because then otherwise they don't know what's appropriate and what isn't if there's too many things out. So if they grab the hose, you can't blame them because it looks just like one of their toys around. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yes. Yeah.
worried about this weather.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming.
We have her books inside.
And my CD too. I have a CD on death and dying.
So come on in, and if you like, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to my author talk. You can find my books and Meditation C at thepetpsychic.com or anywhere online. Just Google Laura Stinchfield, the Pet Psychic, and you will find them. Thanks for listening.